Good morning. Welcome to 1111. Please, those of you who are streaming, please pray for this congregation because donut devils have come in among us. We got to stand fast. We will get started in a moment. See how quick they fell? Y'all brought that darkness in here, and look how quick. They all got up and left. Welcome to Metron, those of you who are logging on, wherever you are. I think most of you met Scott, who came down from Nashville to be with us today. Welcome, Scott. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Fred. How are you? Good to see you.
I got me some of that devil stuff.
I know it. Even you, BJ. Even my own staff. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Come on.
Bring my strength.
What? Okay, we got to get started. It's a beautiful, chilly day in A-Town, and we're glad that you made it out today. It's cold out there, but it's warm in here, and glad to see Karen. We haven't been here. She's not running from God. She's been. Her son Jordan's got a serious physical situation. That's all I'll say. Is just be in agreement, and she's being a full-time mom right now. So glad to see her. Spirit of God, we're aware that we're always in your presence. Where can we go from your presence? But on days like today, when we have the synergy of two or more gathering together for a single purpose, we're more aware. We're more conscious of being in the presence. It's good to be here. It's good to be with one another. It's good to laugh. It's good to hear each other and be empathetic for one another. And so that's what we're here to do today. We thank you that there's an anointing on everything that is said and done here, and that we all leave here being better equipped and stronger and more resolved to live our best lives. We thank you for it. Amen. Please remain standing. Let's do the Lord's Prayer, and then you can be seated. Our Father, who art in heaven, presence of divine love and light that lives within us and within all of life, hallowed be thy name. We invoke the powerful creative nature of all that is sacred and holy. Thy kingdom come. We embrace the healing essence that is the kingdom of heaven within us. Thy will be done. We accept our greatest good as we align with our divine nature, on earth as it is in heaven, knowing that the affairs of our lives reflect our evolving consciousness. Give us this day our daily bread. Each day we receive great blessings from within and throughout all the activities of our lives. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. We accept the divine nature of all things and all people, including ourselves, as we move away from judgment and toward greater awareness of divine presence. And lead us not into temptation. We shall be vigilant in expressing and experiencing the oneness with all life. But deliver us from evil as we are learning to live without fault-finding and suffering. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. For we accept the consciousness of divine perfection with all its power and glory right here, right now, and forever. Amen. And so it is. Tell the person next to you, I'm so glad to be sitting next to you today, and then you may be seated. Y'all come on in. Now remember, first of all, let me announce that, let me start first things first. We're getting back on track with our monthly outreach. We've been doing this for a decade now, and so this month we're giving again to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. I think this is maybe the third or fourth time we've given to them. So we get lots of mail from them, but it's really cool. That's your neck of the woods. Amazing organization that I don't even know how they do it, because these kids have free treatment. I don't know. Anyway, so we're giving to that this month. So whatever you give eventually makes its way there as well. So that's good. Next weekend we will not be here. If you're not going to the meditation weekend, don't come here, or you'll be sitting here all by yourself. We're going to be in Chattanooga for meditation weekend number 21. When I planned this one, I didn't even think about the fact that the 21st one is on the 21st. That was just one of those little synchronistic things that happened. I don't think I thought of it until last Sunday. You mentioned it. I said, I hadn't even thought of it. So it's January 20th and 21st. I went up there one day this week and secured a spot. I'll show you. If you got that picture, let me show you what's going on in this picture, Michelle. I always that one. Just hold that one for a minute, because when I search out a spot for us to meet in cold weather, when it's warm, we're out on the beach or whatever. But in January, especially next weekend, we won't be outside. So I had planned to rent the pavilion where JT and Rachel's wedding was. Y'all coming in the other day? And so I drove up, I looked in the window, and there's big construction equipment in there. They're breaking up the tile and replacing. I thought, oh, that's not going to work. So I started checking out other places, and there was nothing available of the places that I know about. Even one year, we were up there and we used a meeting room at that Spring Hill Suites, and that wasn't even available. So where I'm standing I just took a picture. I took the picture to say, I'm going to find a space. That's kind of how I start creating realities. Like, I'm going to post a picture, say, I'm here spying out the land. I didn't say, I've looked at 13. I even went to the aquarium, and they had a big, huge ballroom that was way more than we needed, and it was $2,500. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But I toured the aquariums. but of any of the places that I knew about in Chattanooga, nothing was available. Where I'm standing, when we've met, and those of you that have been to Chattanooga before, where we've met, like if you were like right there, that's that grassy area right behind that theater. It's like a little regional theater they have, like the river's right there. And I didn't even know that's where we were going to meet, but I ended up going back over there, and they have a room. It's technically a lobby, but it's a big room. It's already set up. The sofas are already in a circle. It's going to be very comfortable. It's going to be very warm, and it's going to be the same view. I love that view of the river and is it Walnut Street Bridge when you see the sunset. So it's going to be. I love that sacred ground right there. That's where that's where we prayed for John and Winnie when they were expecting. A lot of really powerful things have happened in that little space. So I'm so happy that we're technically going to be on that space. It's going to be the same view. We're going to meet there. I think sunset is 5:59. So I've got it from like 5:30 to 7:30. I still haven't secured a place for Sunday morning, and it's possible I might consider doing a breakfast on Sunday morning. That Puckett's that's right there by the aquarium, they've got a big meeting room, and we've never done anything like that. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm definitely not concerned about it. And what's cool about the way the whole thing worked, I looked for every spot I could think of, and I thought, well, I don't know where else to look. I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to detach from outcomes. Something will work out. It always does. So if you're familiar with Chattanooga, you probably passed this last night. As you're about to get on 24, they have that sugar ribs up there on the mountain. I love that place. And I hadn't eaten all day. I thought, I'm going to stop at Sugar Ribs. I love their barbecue chicken. I'm going to get some. So I walked in, and this is kind of how synchronicity works. I sat down at a booth. I looked at my phone immediately. There was a meme that came up that said, that detour I gave you was actually an upgrade, signed the universe. And I thought, well, that's really cool. As soon as I looked at it, I checked into sugar. No, I didn't check in. I was responding to that picture. Claudette, she was here last Sunday. She's not here today. She messaged me and said, stop by Sugar Ribs and pick me up something. And I said, I'm here right now. And I didn't even tell, she didn't even know this. I had just seen that meme. As soon as she said that, I thought, all right, this is going to be synchronicity. And the guy who called me about this building, his last name is Gass, G-A-S-S. I said, you're not related to Bob Gass, are you? And he that's a evangelist from back in the day. But anyway, this actually turned out better than what I expected. This is going to be way better than what I went up there for. So let me say something. I know it's going to be cold this week. I think you looked at weather for next weekend, and there's like a 20% chance of precipitation. If it were to snow or something, I would give you plenty of time. Like, I can't imagine it's going to stop us from going because there's no treacherous roads. I mean, it's expressway the whole way. You're not driving up on mountains or anything. There's nothing. If, God forbid, it was icy, I don't think anything would be dangerous. But if we get to around Wednesday or Thursday, and they start saying it's going to be blanketed in snow, then, yeah, I'll contact you on the group page. I've had people this week contacting me saying, when's the next meditation weekend? I'm like, oh, Lord, really? You really don't know? But I'll contact you in plenty of time. Most of these, you got 48 hours to cancel a hotel. Some of them even 24 hours. But I'll give you plenty of time. I don't feel in my gut that the weather's going to be an issue. It's going to be cold. I mean, we won't be swimming in the Tennessee River. What if I said, the Lord said I'm going to do a baptismal service? How many of you are willing? Test your faith. But I feel like my gut says we're going to be fine. Bundle up, but we're not going to be meeting outside. And we're between here and there. It's flat the whole way. I don't think you'll have any issues. So that's the scoop. And I'll answer every question you have about life. Anything you could think to ask me, it will all be answered. The answers to life's questions will be on the group page. So I think that was everything that I needed to announce. Okay? Y'all ready for the word? It was weak. Are we ready, Charles, for the podcast? Welcome to Metron Live Podcast, coming to you from the Atlanta Theater in this part of A-Town. Metron people, would you please welcome the podcast people? Let them know we're glad you're listening. Hello. Thanks, as always, Charles, for making this possible. We appreciate it. I am in a series, and I love this series. I love what we talked about last week, and I love the energy that's on a series. Because when I'm in series mode, then every conversation I have during the week, things I listen to, there's just lots of confirmation. So our title, I'm taking it from Psalm 139:14, which in the King James Version says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And as I told you last week, Elizabethan English uses the word fearful as we would use the word awesome. So when we say I'm fearfully made, it doesn't mean we're afraid of God. It means that we're blown away at how amazing the human body is. So the title is Awesomely, Wonderfully Made, Unlocking Self-Esteem by Discovering the Miracle of You. And I want to go back and look at, I love different translations of the Bible. I love words. I love interpretation. I love translation. I love how different linguists will pick up the essence of what the writer was saying, and sometimes just a different word or a different phrase will totally turn that diamond and let you see a whole different facet. Like, for instance, if you grew up in church, you probably grew up hearing people quote, "Bring up a child in the way he should go, and when he's older, he'll not depart from it." The Amplified Bible shows that what the Hebrew actually says, the emphasis is, bring up a child in the way he or she should go. Not, it doesn't mean just raise them right and they'll end up all right, because we've all raised children and we know there's a little bit of a crapshoot in that one, right? I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't be a good parent, but your kids, they kind of come in fully formed. And, you know, the best you can do, y'all are perfect parents. The best you can do is kind of guide them toward the best version of how they came in. And in the Amplified, it says, bring up a child in the way he should go according to his individual gift or bent. Well, that's a completely different meaning. That's not some monolithic thing about raising kids right. What that's really talking about is find out what's unique about your son or your daughter and play to that strength. You know, not everybody's going to go to college. Not everybody's going to end up with the marrying the person you picked out for them. Am I getting too real? You know, with my 4 kids, between my 4 children and all of their girlfriends and ex-husbands and in my Facebook memories, I've got to where now when we're all together, I'm like, let me just get a picture with just my kids, because there's always like, well, I can't use that picture now. I can't use that picture now. I can't use that one. I got lots of those, and my whole thing is like, I want y'all to be happy, and just keep me up to date with who we're back together with, who we're not. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes you're going to show up at a family thing with somebody that, I thought that was done. No, they've been okay, just trying to keep up, and not really have a lot of opinions about it. Can I tell you something about having opinions about the people that your children love? It not only does it change their opinion, it has a tendency to galvanize them, to make them enamored with that person even more. Now, that may not be your experience, but people are going to love who they're going to love, and you're not going to change that. You're expressing opinions about it. I'm prophesying now. You're expressing opinions about it is only going to make a negative situation worse. So I'm just telling you that. That's your free part. All right. Let me show you. This is Psalm 139:14. This is in the Living Bible. Some of y'all remember when the Living Bible came out in the late 60s, what a big deal it was. This is how this is interpreted. Instead of I am fearfully and wonderfully made, he says, thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Isn't that cool? It is amazing to think about. Your workmanship is marvelous, and how well I know it. Have you ever done some introspection and think, I'm a hot mess. Like, what is the problem? And no, you're not. You're just wonderfully complex. No, you are. It's like, I've told you this before, but they did a study, and I'm not against astrology. If astrology works for you, whatever. I'm good with whatever works for you. But they did a study, Harvard, Yale, one of these Ivy League schools, where they asked everyone to write on a piece of paper what their astrological sign was. And then they gave them the profile to read of that sign. And they asked these skeptical students, was this accurate for Aries? Was this accurate for Capricorn? Sagittarius, and everybody in the class was like, this is uncanny. This is me exactly. This is incredible. I had no idea they could call it so perfectly. And come to find out, everybody had been given the exact same profile. So the thing is, there's certain things that you can read into. Like I could say to every one of you in here, do you feel discouraged sometimes? And you'd be like, oh my God. How does he know? Why? Because it's the human condition. And there's just some things that are true across the board. Doesn't mean there can't be a word in season for somebody. It just means you have to also know that some things are, you're complex. You're not any one thing. You're a little bit of everything. So I'm just totally optimistic. Maybe not all the, if you're always optimistic, there might be something missing. You might be out of touch with reality. I mean, sometimes it's great to be optimistic, but you have to balance optimism with realism. Can you hear me? All right. Now, let me show you. This is out of the Exegesis Companion Bible. I've never used this before, but I like this quote, Psalm 139:14. He says, I spread my hands to you, for I am awesomely distinguished. That's a cool phrase. Marvelous are your works, and my soul knows that right well. I love that. I'm awesomely complex. I'm awesomely distinguished. My eccentricities are what makes me wonderful. I can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. And then I'm going to show you this third one. This is out of the Young's literal translation. Thank you. Psalm 139:14. He says, and he uses, for some reason, he uses Elizabethan pronouns. I confess thee because that with wonders I have been distinguished. Wonderful are thy works, and my soul is knowing it well. The reason I like to show you a passage from a lot of different translations is when you see them all together, you start picking up the essence of this is what he's saying. David is having self-discovery. I mean, David could be very, anything you felt, David could feel it. He was very transparent. He was very emotional. And sometimes could get down on himself. You know, he could go from pomposity to, I know you think about me all the time, to, what the heck is wrong with me? And that's because we all feel that way. That's just natural. If you don't feel a little bit of that at some time, there's something wrong. There should be a little bit of kind of everything in your makeup. Some things will be more dominant than others. And sometimes you'll find something that you need to work on. But I'll tell you this, you are who you are. However you came in, that's how you are. So you have to learn how to be instead of trying to change yourself, be a steward of who you are. I know there are certain things in my personality that I could look at in some way and think, I don't like that about myself. And on the other way, I think that's what's made me a great teacher. I have a tendency to be too empathetic, too transparent. It always made me maybe not a good counselor, because when people tell me their stuff, I could empathize with everybody's. Like somebody would tell me some horrible thing they did, and I think, I get it. Like, oh, I'm not supposed to tell you that. I'm supposed to be horrified at what you're telling me, and I'm like, I don't know. Given your story, I could see how that could happen. I'm not supposed to say that as a minister. I'm supposed to tell you this is a right way. And I'm like, I understand. Life's hard. So sometimes I would give people like, here's what I'm supposed to tell you, and here's what I will tell you. And between those two polarities, you'll find some truth for yourself. Because I also learned over the years that there are some exceptions, but even when people come to you for counseling, they've kind of already made up in their mind what they're going to do. They're just waiting for you to confirm it, or like you don't really change. On some occasions I've changed somebody's direction, but Not always. And so I've had to learn, which direction are they going anyway? And what's the best thing I can give them? And another thing that I do, and I've been accused of being self-absorbed and talking about myself too much. As a matter of fact, when I took pastoral counseling in college, that was the number one rule, is you never talk about yourself. You always make it about the person you're counseling. Well, it's not that I just want to talk about me all the time, but I can only relate. Like when you tell me what you're going through, I will think, well, I went through a similar thing, and this is how I worked it out. This is what worked for me. Even last night, I called Jonah, but Jonah told me to watch some movie, and we ended up watching it last night, and I wanted to discuss it with him. And he was telling me that Sophie has a job opportunity that's totally not in her field, but it could be a really good financial advantage. And he said, we're still trying to figure out what to do because it's not something she would normally go after, but it's one of those things where she met somebody that knew somebody that it could open a door. And I said, well, what I have told people in the past when it's a thing like that is go ahead and pursue it and pray over it and say, I'm going in this direction. Because I can't just ignore it. I mean, this may be an opportunity that God or the universe has opened up for me. So here I go, and I'm making a move toward it. And if there's a green light on it, I'm going to assume that's a yes. And if it's not, then I'm going to assume I'm not supposed to do this. But you have to, for lack of a better term, you have to throw a lot of stuff, a lot of spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. Because I've had people tell me, I got this job opportunity, but it's not really what I want to do. And I would say to them, well, do you have any other options? Not right now. Well, then you're going to have to work. It doesn't mean you're going to be locked into this forever. So start moving in that direction and pray over it. And then if there is a red light, don't freak out over it. Just say, okay, well, then I'm not supposed to do that. But I wouldn't have known if I hadn't at least made the move toward it. So I was telling him that last night because I've done that before. I've said, this is how I've, and been successful with it. Well, I'm not going to know if I don't at least move toward it. And it may be something I'm interested in that I'm not aware of right now. Okay? So Professor Daniel, who taught me to never refer to myself, would be very displeased with me because for 52 years I've been referring to myself. But I'm not just coming here. There's a purpose to it. I'm not just coming here telling you stories about me. I'm saying this is what happened to me this week, and this is what I learned from it. And I'm assuming some of y'all have been driving up to lots of different buildings over the years to hear me tell this stuff. So I'm assuming something in it must resonate with you, right? Or did y'all come today and say, you know what? We cannot hear one more story. Let me show you this. I referred to this last week. Howie watched last week. He said, you made me famous again. I said, Howie said, you referred to me twice in your sermon. But this is the quote that he posted that was a confirmation of what I was teaching. It says, for you to be here now, trillions of drifting atoms had to somehow assemble in an intricate and intriguingly obliging manner to create you. It's an arrangement so specialized and particular that it has never been tried before and will only exist once. For the supremely agreeable but generally underappreciated state known as existence. Now, I mean, that's good. That's awesomely made. That's fearfully and wonderfully made. That's awesomely complex. How did these trillions of cells come together in an organized way to be me? Because there will never be another exact me. All right. And the next thing I have to show you is a meme. I posted this earlier, but this is so in keeping with what I'm talking about. It says, hey, I hope beautiful things happen to you, and when they do, I hope you find it in your heart that you are worthy of every single one of them. Some people can't enjoy blessings because they don't feel worthy of them. Some people are constantly punishing themselves for something that they did or perceive that they did. So they go through life with an imposter syndrome, thinking, if people only knew what I'm really like, they'd know I don't deserve anything I have. And it's just a lie. We're empowered. Well, let me show you the next meme, this next quote. I'm going to quote the Oprah. I can't call her Oprah Winfrey. She's the Oprah. She's in a whole other category. And this is simple, but it just says, you are worthy because you were born. Let me tell you why I think this is important. In traditional Christianity, we were kind of taught, nobody actually said it, but it was implied, God really can't stand you. But because of what Jesus did on the cross, he's going to somehow be able to stomach you because he can only see you through the blood. He likes Jesus, but you're gross. And so you've got to stay, hiding behind Jesus. When you get to heaven, you'd be like, nobody better know I'm here. That was our theology. Even some of the hymns that I loved, like lines that would say, dressed in his righteousness alone, faultless to stand before the throne. So there's this idea that the only way God can ever even look at me is because of Jesus. And I find that to be problematic. I don't believe Jesus came to the earth to tell God about us. I think he came to the earth to tell us about God. I don't think he came to change God's mind about us. I think he came to change our mind about God. You're welcome. Thanks for coming. Drive safely. You feel me? That rhetorical question in Genesis, who told you you were naked? Jesus was answering it on the cross. He's crucified naked. And he's saying, I didn't want it to have to come to this. I believe everything was supposed to have been fulfilled on the Mount of Transfiguration. People still didn't believe they were worthy. So it doesn't lessen my respect for the atonement. If anything, it makes me admire it even more. Because I don't think there's an angry sky God that needed it. I believe that there are people who believed and who only believed that blood sacrifice would take care of it. So he does blood sacrifice, but it wasn't necessary. It's like doing something for somebody that you don't need, but they need it. Like, I couldn't love you any more than I already do, but let me show you this or do this thing for you so that you'll change your perception of yourself. And the reason as simple as that is, you're worthy because you were born. That kind of flies in the face of, the whole concept of the fall and, total depravity and in sin my mother conceived me. Those are all different verses that are taken out of context. Context is so important. If you don't have context, you don't know what the writer's talking about. I heard a joke this week, and you may think, how did you get that out of the joke? But just, to me, it explains what context is. Man and husband and wife are in bed one night. Knock on the door, 3 a.m. Man gets up, goes, opens the door. There's a man standing there, and he says, I'm sorry to bother you, but can you give me a push? And the man says, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not coming out to give you a push. Who do you think you are? closes the door, goes back upstairs. His wife says, "What was that about?" She said, "Some guy at the door wanted me to give him a push." And she said, "What if that was you? What if that was you out somewhere and you were stranded and you needed someone to give you a push? You would want somebody to help you." And he said, "All right, I'll do it." So he gets up, puts his robe on, goes back downstairs, opens the door. "Hey, buddy, are you still out here?" And he hears a voice. A guy says, "Yeah, I'm still here." "Do you still need a push?" He said, "Yes, I do. I need a push." And he's standing there. He said, I don't see where you are. Where are you?" He said, "I'm sitting in the swing." All he wanted was a push. And to me, that's a classic example of context. When I say he needed to push, you're all thinking, get behind a car, the guy must be stranded. And it's a different reality. No, it's a guy that, it's actually kind of creepy to think some guys, there's a part to that joke that gives me the willies. Like, why is there a guy at your house in the middle of the night on your swing? But the point is, there are some things that were, like, for instance, when David said, "I was born in sin, and in sin my mother conceived me," that wasn't some statement for the entire human race. That was something he was saying in the context of Psalm 51, when he was feeling so horrible about stealing the wife of his good friend and having the man murdered. And that's as bad as it gets. And he said, what he's saying is, it's like I was conceived in sin. Like he's saying, I'm so horrible. I feel so horrible about myself. And he should have. He wasn't saying this is true for everybody. You know, when you poll people, most people who grew up out of Christian culture say, "What's your favorite hymn?" Most people will say Amazing Grace. And it's a fabulous song. I love it. But when John Newton wrote it, it was his mea culpa, or his repentance for the slave trade. He'd been a slave trader. And when he said, "I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I can see," it's like he had an epiphany to realize, what am I doing? I don't know who got to him to change his opinion, but when he said, "Who saved a wretch like me," like, yes, that was wretched what you did. You were buying and selling human beings. That's wretched. And you should feel terrible about it. I'm glad that you were blind, now you can see. But people for generations have sung that song and taken on that wretchedness. Saved a wretch like me. Well, Paul comes along and says, "In my flesh dwells no good thing." That's an extreme statement. You got to take that with a grain of salt. In your flesh dwells no good thing? I mean, come on. The worst person in the world, there was probably something about them that was, redeemable or noteworthy. And what he was saying is, I feel so bad. We've all been there before where we did something that we feel we've punished ourselves so much about it. There's no need anybody else to say anything to make you feel bad about yourself, because there's nothing could compete with what you were already saying to yourself. It's like you couldn't insult me even anywhere near to what I'm already saying to myself. There's nothing you could say to make me feel any worse. I get it. Why, if somebody murders somebody, and they go to trial, they have this thing where the victim's family can address the guy. Victim say, and I get it. I guess it gives some closure. But some of these people have done such horrible things. What could you possibly say? I mean, I guess in theory it's okay, but what could you possibly say to change it? "Oh, I'm sorry, I murdered your child." Okay, well, thanks. It's like there's some things that you're like, I blew it so bad. What could I possibly say to make this up? Well, now, Bishop, you sound that's the opposite of what you're saying about we're worthy. No, you could be worthy and still do something horrible. I'm not saying you should all walk out of here and say, Bishop taught us today we're worthy because we were born. I think I'm going to steal your car. There's still right and wrong. You can live through the tree of life and still know the difference between right or wrong. You don't have to perceive everything through the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Those are two completely different things. It's like back when, I've told you this before, but when some of you may not know this, but Felicia, who comes here, she's not here all the time, but when she's here, she usually sits right there. But, back when the shooting happened at Heritage High School years ago, her daughter Kanaya was shot in the leg. And so in a statement, because during that time I was there at the hospital with her and the news reporters were there, and Kanaya had said in an interview, "I forgive the guy who shot me." To which the reporter said, "Did your pastor tell you to say that?" And I thought, I don't tell people what to say. Like what? You honestly think I'm standing by her bed going, "Say that"? I mean, really? But anyway, she says, "No, that's what I said. I didn't say that to her. I didn't tell her to do that." Well, buddy, my phone lit up with preachers in town saying, "You better tell that girl that boy needs to pay his debt to society." And I said, "I don't think she said he shouldn't be incarcerated. Forgiveness doesn't mean you don't obey the law. He shot people. I don't think he killed anybody, but he did. It was a random shooting. Yeah, whatever the penalty is for that, sure." When I started preaching ultimate reconciliation years ago, which I think I've even moved past that. I don't even think that's how you would describe me now. I think I'm in a whole other area. But people would say to me, "Are you just saying everybody should get out of prison?" I'm like, no, that's nothing to do with their eternity. I mean, there's a lot of people who are in there falsely accused. That's true. But, I mean, I'm not saying, I said, I may believe you're not going to hell and still be afraid of you. I need you behind those bars. That doesn't mean I'm like, "Oh, well, Jesus saved us all. Let's go." Well, no, you may still, you got some work to do. Anyway, I think you know the point. Let me tell you why. Is that number 6? Yeah. I'm going to show you meditation that I actually wrote last year, but I redid it for a little bit for this year. And it's very much in line with the quote that I used that Howie had written. But let me, before I finish with this, let me just say, there are some things you have to believe about yourself, about your own worthiness, or you'll never have boundaries. You'll never know how to say no. You'll end up agreeing to stuff that you don't really believe in. Self-esteem affects the choices you make in relationships, in jobs. I mean, it affects everything. When people say, "Why would you talk about that in a setting like this?" Because this is super important. I could go so far to say that Jesus even died for self-esteem. You say, "Oh no, he died to save the world." I know, but the world didn't know it didn't need to be saved. He's the Savior of all men, especially them that believe. Not everybody believes. So that's how important and holy self-esteem is. You've got to know where your boundaries are, what you're going to say no to, what you're not going to give into just because somebody manipulates you. This thing happened last week. I don't know why this struck me so funny. I don't even think Ken understands why it's funny. It just is. But I have, my entire life, I've dealt with, I don't even like to say the word, it rhymes with smertigo, and it starts with a V. Alfred Hitchcock did a movie called that. And before I talk about this, please don't text me and tell me that there are things on YouTube about how you can hang your head off the side of a bed. I know all that stuff. It does not work. And when you tell me that stuff, it makes me nauseous. Even talking about it right now, I got to get off this subject because I'm like, the room's going to spin if we don't do it. And it's a situation with an inner ear. And as I look back now, I realize I've kind of dealt with at different times. I remember being in French class when I was in high school and saying, "May I be excused, please? I don't feel good." And I remember walking out in the hallway and just the whole room just went, and I fell. And I remember one of the football coaches said, "Get up off the floor." And I said, "I can't." And I passed out on a plane once, and it's just a thing. But I have learned in recent years, and these are my own. I can't promise you it's going to work for you, but I have learned now. When I start feeling it coming on, there's a very definite feeling that comes with it. I've learned how to get in front of it. There's certain things, there's certain medications that I keep with me at all times just because it's the devil. And you never know when it's going to hit you. There's no warning to it. I mean, I literally have, like in the morning, when you wake up and then you switch sides. I've literally done it where I've just felt totally fine and just switching sides. I could hear, you feel there's these little tiny microscopic balls in your, there's 3 of them, and they're in your inner ear, and when they get out of alignment, they affect everything. And I've had it so bad at sometimes that I would think if this isn't going to get better, somebody's going to have to call Dr. Kevorkian, because this is worse than any pain I've ever had. There's no way I can exist. I mean, I've preached with pain before. I can do that, but when you have a bad case of V, it just shuts you down. You can't, there's nothing you can do about it, and it's just, you never know when it's going to come up. So Ken stays out in Greensboro during the week, so he calls me the same time every night, and usually I'll always say, "How's your back today? Did you see the chiropractor?" And so some nights it's better than others, and sometimes he'll say, "Oh, I'm going to go tomorrow." I'm like, "Well, I speak healing to you." And sometimes I will say to him, he knows what I mean. I'll say, "I'm feeling a little V-ish," and that means, and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I'll say, "It's fine. I'll get past it. I'm sure. I'll take my stuff, and when I get up in the morning, it'll be fine." Just little things I've learned to do, like when you start feeling it come on, don't lay down, sit up, those are my little things, which I'll be happy to share with you. I don't know that it'll work for you, but they work for me. It involves anything with meclizine in it, which is in that thing called Bonine. You used to only get it over the counter, but it's even in one of the Dramamines now. And I had a doctor tell me, he said, even if you take a Claritin D, sometimes it will help fix the situation with your inner ear. And even if I don't have anything else, even like an Excedrin migraine will even help with it. So I've learned these, my little arsenal of things that when I feel if I feel V-ish, I'm like, I gotta do my thing. And so even though I deal with it a lot, I haven't had a bad case of it in quite a while, because I've just sort of gotten in front of it. Like I've learned how to, this is a thing that I have to deal with, and I've learned how to, you've got your thing that like I've got to, you're not being in doubt and unbelief. It's like, this is a thing in my body that whatever. So I think it was last weekend, he goes on to bed before I do, and he's usually real quiet, and I'll say good night, and thank you for dinner, and whatever. And, sometimes if I say, I'm feeling a little V-ish, he'll be like, "Oh, I just pray for you and believe it'll be better." Like we're usually speaking in those kind of tones, because we say that stuff to each other a lot. One night last week, I just said, "I'm feeling a little V-ish," and suddenly he goes, "No!" I wasn't expecting. I don't know if he was feeling me or he's like, "I cannot hear you say this one more time." I don't know what it was, but it startled me because I wasn't expecting that volume to come out of him. Usually when he's in going to bed mode, he's real quiet, and like I know his posture, like he's fixing me out. And when he said it just made me laugh. And every time I've thought about it since then, when I started, when I start to feel it, I just hear, no! But it kind of is symbolic of the way you have to be about everything. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know the famous quote, never complain about what you permit. And there are things in your life, even I've learned this, I've shared this with you already, but I had cataract surgery recently, and it's amazing. I mean, yesterday it was real bright outside, and I was like looking at everything. This is, it's like seeing high-def TV for the first time. This is incredible. And I remember, Howie, here's where I'm making you famous again. When I knew I was going to have it, because he had just had it done, and I remember him saying to me, "You're going to be amazed to realize how bad your vision has gotten, and you've just gotten acclimated to it. You're just used to it." And he was right. And pretty much everybody who's had it has said the same thing. You know, it's like, wow, I didn't realize. When I finally got to where I'm like driving like this, saying, I think I need a new prescription on my glass. And, couple of times I thought, I'm not making this up. I honestly cannot. I can't see anything. And it made me think, how many things in your life do you just get used to, and that's the way it is, and you nearly have to have, it was like, when he said that loud no, it kind of shocked me, because he's never that loud. He's not even that loud when he's fully awake. It just, somebody said no. So every time, if the room spins a little bit, I just hear, no! I'm like, okay, whew. So I've added that to my arsenal now, along with I keep my stuff handy in case I need to take that. But I also, because it actually, laughing about it changed the energy on it. I shared this with some of you before the service, but so I won't go into a lot of detail. But situation with taking care of my mother is very difficult and is becoming increasingly difficult. And the thought of going through another parent with dementia is the most terrifying thing in the world. Ken had a parent with dementia and one with leukemia, and I said, which was worse? He said, oh, dementia 1,000 times worse. Because at least if somebody's lucid, they can cooperate with you and know. And I'm like, I can't do this again. I can't do it again. And I mean, I'm just being vulnerable. Don't tell Dr. Daniels I'm telling my story. But, you know, it's serious, and I've got to take care of it, and I will, but I can't move back in there and do that again, and which is what she wants. And so this thing had happened with, you know, she texts me a lot during the day, but when she calls, it's never good. Like if with the phone run, like this is never, it's never, like something, I'm about to have to drive to Snow Mountain or pick up something or do something, or this is never, there's never good news on the end of it. You know how you can get used to, it's kind of like, did you ever study about Pavlov's dogs? I've gotten to where every time her name comes up on the phone, I'm getting chest pains. I'm like, you know, my cardiologist said if you don't stop the stress, she will outlive you, and so you're going to have to learn how to deal with it. So I'm looking and I thought, I can't just tell her not to call me. So how am I going to change the energy on it? So I thought, I'm going to go into my settings. I'm going to take Mom out of there. I'm going to write, this is going to be awesome. And where you can put a picture, I put a poster of good vibes only. And so at least, if nothing, because like 2 or 3 times she called me yesterday, and my first thing is I have a chuckle because it's so absurd on my phone. It comes out, this is going to be awesome. I'm like, no, it's not. But but it kind of changed the energy on it. You know, somehow it made it more tolerable. Because she said something to me last night that was so hurtful that I thought this would have really just ruined my night the other night. And I'm looking at it. I mean, after we talked, and I said, no, you can't say stuff like that to me and then ask me to pray for you. That's not going to work. And all I'm hearing is, no! Which I didn't say that, but that's what I'm hearing. But the thing is I hung up the phone. I thought, I've got to deal with this, and I will. I will, this. I can't ignore this anymore. And for all my cousins and uncles and friends who call me, who also talk to her, that I'm like, I know, I'm on it. I'm on it. I don't know where people think I'm at. What do people think I'm doing? I've already been there like 3 times this week. I've gone to the vet. I've done anyway. I would usually tell people with young families, if you only have one child, I'd be like, have another one. But I don't know if that's always the case, because Ken, nothing against Ken's brother, but Ken had a brother, but he was the full caretaker of both his parents. I mean, they just, so even if you have siblings, usually one will be more of the caretaker. When you're an only child, there's no alternative. There's not even a lazy brother you can call, and I'm not saying but a lazy brother, sister you can call and cuss out. But anyway, my point is, healthy self-esteem will help you change the energy. And when something is putting you under, you say, no, I'm not, I can't, this is not going to destroy me. This is not going to make me die prematurely. I'm going to change this energy. Some of y'all know, he may be streaming today. Y'all know Kevin Broadhead. He's in the hospital to have triple bypass. He's been in there for days. The reason he's been in there for days is there were 300 people at Piedmont Hospital ahead of him, many of whom needed transplants and stuff. So what I initially told him, I said, the very fact that they're not rushing you right into surgery is a good sign. That means this is manageable. And I'm not saying bypass isn't a scary thing, but it is more of a typical procedure than it used to be. And everybody that I know that's had bypass has loved the way they felt afterwards. The problem is this other situation was going on with his heart that could have been very life-threatening, and enough that they had to call in a specialist to do, because I don't understand it enough to explain it to you. But anyway, as it turns out, because he's been scheduled for it twice already. And as it turns out, the really, really bad thing is not the case. They've ruled that out. So his cardiologist said, did you ever think you'd be happy to say, oh, it's just a triple bypass? And he said, actually, I'm not saying I don't have some, dread of going in for the surgery, but I'm really looking forward to feeling better. And I said, well, that's how you change the energy on something. Instead of saying, oh, God, I dread this surgery so much, you have to say, I'm going to feel so much better after this is done. For the joy that was set before him, Jesus endured the cross. And so you have to believe in your future, believe in yourself, believe in your survival abilities to say, this is difficult, I will get through it, and something will be better than it was before. And just change the energy on things. Like nothing's the end of the world. Nothing's worth you killing yourself over. There's always a way to work it out. There just is. But if you don't really believe you should be here, if you don't really believe that you're useful and serve a purpose, you'll psychologically start killing yourself. I mean, suicide isn't always just somebody jumping off a bridge or shooting themselves. Sometimes it takes a lot longer, but it's their giving up on themselves. So this is what I wrote 2 or 3 years ago and updated. I said, welcome, you've lived to see another year. I said, they told you that it was all going to end in 2000 with the Y2K millennium bug shutting down computers all over should be all over the world, and planes falling out of the sky. But that didn't happen, and you're still here. Many died on 9/11 in 2001, and it was a horrible tragedy that made us all wonder for a moment if any of us were going to survive. But you did just that. Honor the memory of those who were lost, but be grateful that you're still here. And you know, that was 24 years ago. Can you believe that? People that were born, or 23 years ago, people that were born at Y2K are married and have children of their own now. You believe that? They told you that the world was going to end in 2003, 2004, 2005, 2008, and 2009 for various cosmic reasons, but none of that happened, and you're still here. They told you that the second coming of Christ was going to happen at least 13 times since the beginning of the 21st century, and the Mayans predicted centuries ago that it was all going to end in 2012, but again, didn't happen, and you're here. And millions all over the world have died as a result of COVID-19, but you didn't. Honor those who have perished to take care of yourself, but never underestimate the fact that you've survived a worldwide pandemic. All of those cells engaged in a mighty battle. Did we miss one, Michelle? I might not have sent you the right thing. Show me what the next one is. Okay, something's missing, but go back one. What it's talking about is somehow I've got these out of order, but it's talking about, and I know y'all are all big boys and girls, you know where babies come from, but when sperm cells penetrate an egg cell, there are millions of them that war. No, it's fine. I'll figure it out. Thank you, though. That's what go back. That's what I'm looking for. There were so many natural disasters in the world last year due to climate change and other things, and many died, but you didn't. Honor their memory and do what you can to make things better, but don't allow yourself to suffer any survivor's guilt. All right, that was the next one. Now show me the next one. Yes, good. Now we're good. You experienced things in your personal life last year that could have killed you, either physically or emotionally or spiritually, but you're still here. You may have some scars, but you still have life. Now this is where something's missing here, but anyway, it's where it's talking about maybe you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Yes, okay. At conception, you survived the sperm wars and penetrated an ovum against all odds to become you. All of those cells engaged in a mighty battle that only one could or would win. And millions died with one goal in mind, which was to be the first to penetrate the egg to create you. The one that survived that massive battle and became the winner out of potentially 1.2 billion to make you just as you are means that you were born a survivor and a winner. You survived the odds out of 1.2 billion, and that makes you unique and very special. When you say, I've never won anything, yeah, you did. The fact that you got born means you won. You're the spoils of war. There was a mighty battle that you became the trophy of war. So you came in a survivor. Then you survived station of 9 months in a foreign environment and somehow transformed yourself from a zygote into a physical human body and made a miraculous exit through a very narrow opening, unless you were born through C-section, which means you survived a serious surgery. You survived childhood, many dangers, toils, and snares, Y2K, 9/11, second comings, natural disasters, personal tragedies, the pandemic, and the challenges of last year, because you could survive anything. You have already accomplished the hardest part just by fighting your way into the world at conception and birth. The rest was relatively easy. Since it's already been proven that you are a survivor and a winner, and that cosmic events haven't, as of yet, been able to take you out, it is therefore now incumbent upon you to make it all mean something. Overcame all of it for such a time as this. To whom much is given, much is required. Was that the end of it, Bill? Okay. And so that's the point. It's like sometimes you don't think you've overcome a lot, but then you start thinking about it and you think, you know what? This happened and that happened. I killed the lion. I killed the bear. I mean, sometimes you have to remind yourself who you are and what you've overcome. And why would, whatever your idea of God is, why would God have spared you? Why would God have taken you through everything, survived everything that you survived? Some of you just driving here this morning. I mean, the other day I was out somewhere and I passed at least 5 fender benders. And, I mean, it made me pay attention and everything, but I thought, man, when people say, we actually were considering flying somewhere this weekend, and the person who wanted to fly us knows I don't really like to fly. So the thing is, I will if I have to. But the thing is, people die in car wrecks all the time, and I drive a car every day. So, I mean, there's, you deal with it if you have to. But you think about all the things you have already come through. You have already survived. And then for you just to live out the rest of the time just being existing, that doesn't make much sense. So you have to say, I must have overcome all those obstacles for a reason. It must really matter that I'm here. I must be really difficult to get rid of. Do you know what I mean? I must matter to somebody. Somebody must have prayed for me. Somebody must believe in me. I must have some connection with somebody. Otherwise, how else would I have done it? How else could I have survived it all? And sometimes you forget, you don't give yourself the proper credit. You think, oh, I'm not really strong. Yes, you are. What are you talking about? You're a champion. You've already overcome stuff. And sometimes when you're in the midst, I'm all for being present, but sometimes when you're too present and you don't remember the past, you can forget that you already overcame a lot of stuff. You already survived a lot of stuff. And when you're right in the middle of a thing, sometimes you can think, oh, this one's going to do me in. This isn't going to, I'm not going to survive this one. Yeah, you will, because you did it before. You underestimate yourself. I mean, you were born a champion, and you still are a champion. And it doesn't matter if you spent 40 years wandering around the wilderness. It doesn't matter. God will redeem the time. And when you come back to who you are and come to yourself, just like the prodigal son, when he came to himself, he was fully restored. So your story is not over. And this isn't some like hype motivational speak. I mean, this is the word of the Lord. Do you hear me? Like, you have to believe in your ability to get up again. A just man falls 7 times and gets up again. Rejoice not over me, my enemy, for when I fall, I shall arise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord will be a light unto me. You have to remind yourself that the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you. And remember your testimony. You're made overcomers, not just by the blood of the Lamb, but by the word of your testimony. This is what that's why I talk about myself so much, because I'm not bragging. I'm telling you, here's my testimony. I'm still here. I'm still prospering. I'm still blessed. I mean, even if you got through, I don't know if this is the case for you. This is the case for me. When you look at maybe some financial challenges you went through last year, and you somehow landed on your feet in 2024, and you're like, I don't know how we pulled that off. Y'all feel me? Like, I don't know how I pulled that off, but okay, that's what the bank says I have. Okay, I guess don't say anything, because I don't know how we did that one. Anybody know what I'm talking about? You know what it's like to feel like you had the devourer rebuked for your sake, and you think, I don't know, that's a miracle. You look at your bank statement and you're like, that's like walking on water. That's like the waters parting. How is that even possible? Some of you got through. I did. I got through Christmas. I did everything I wanted to do for Christmas. Bought everybody anything I wanted to buy for Christmas. And if you had told me a few months before, Christmas is a-coming, I'd be like, oh, Lord, it might be a lean one. It was not. I mean, I was like a baller this Christmas. I was like, hey, Christina, you home by yourself? I'll fly out here. I'll go find you a ticket. A few months ago, I'd been like, have a good time in Santa Fe. Merry Christmas. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that if I want my daughter here for Christmas, she's only coming for 3 days. I don't care. How much is the flyer here? We got, I was so happy when I walked in Mom's house. She's cooking turnip greens. I'm like, I did that. You're welcome. I flew her in. Who'd have thunk? And you're the same way. You did what you wanted to do, and you survived. Why? Because you already know how. You think about some of these survivalists. How did they learn all that stuff? It's because they adapt. I've told you this before, and I'm coming to an end, but years ago, I took a group down to Peru, and on this particular, we'd been 2 or 3 times, and on this particular one, survivalist guide took us down the Amazon, and we hiked through the rainforest a little bit, and it was cool. All the animals were hiding. I didn't see, it wasn't like a Tarzan movie, but it was beautiful. So the guy that was leading us, he's one of these survivalists that, businessmen will fly into Peru for him to train them for, special camping things or whatever, because he can teach you how to survive. If you have to eat bark or whatever. So he was getting real, he was just starting to say some things that was starting to just offend me a little bit. Because the implication was, you Americans you're so spoiled and pampered. He said, you couldn't last out here 24 hours. He said, if somebody put you in this rainforest, you'd be dead within 24 hours. I said, may I say something, please? Why don't you come to Atlanta and drive on 285 in 5 o'clock traffic? I guarantee you my ability to survive 24 hours in this jungle are going to be better than your ability to navigate around 18-wheelers and crazy people driving and not looking where they're going and testing where they're driving. And you do it every day. You do it every day and don't even think anything about it. It shut him down. I was like, that's fine. I respect what you're doing in the rainforest, but I live in a jungle too. It may not look like this jungle, but I live in a jungle. I'm telling you. So that's all well and good, that you could tell us how to avoid the anacondas and the tarantulas. But come on up to my neck of the wood and let's see who's got the survival skills. Because I've been driving on that expressway for many, many years. I don't know how I did it. I'm still here. I am like, somebody should give me an award. So you have to remember, when you start feeling insecure, you have to be like, no, I'm B.J. freaking Buford. I'm Beth freaking Rubenstein. Raven. That's a private joke. But sometimes you have to make that I am declaration, and when somebody starts telling you otherwise, what do you say? No! Let's all stand. It got in your spirit too. It's like, it so surprised me when it was out of character for him, and I was like, okay, I guess I won't have it then. Exactly. And the fact that sometimes when you hear something and you laugh at it, it's like you get impregnated with it. You know what I mean? It becomes part of your consciousness. And so anyway, did you get anything out of this today? Of course you did. Was it worth driving down from Nashville for? All right, please remain standing. I'll show you the outro, and then I'll speak a blessing over you.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. You can give anytime using any smartphone. Text the amount you would like to donate to 404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation. You may also visit bishopthenow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment into Metron.
If you have a check, make it to JESM, and if you have cash, just pay it forward. I bless everyone here today. Stir up your pure mind to remember who you are and to walk in it. No weapon formed against you will prosper. And every tongue that rises against you in judgment is wrong. For this is the heritage of His righteousness is of me. Those are your promises. Hold on to them. Walk in your strength. Walk in your dominion. Walk in your success. Walk in the person that you want to be. Because the universe is responding to what you want as much as it is responding to who you are being. So be somebody. Rise up. I bless you all, and even those of you at home, to do just that. And as I said, amen. Now remember, don't come here next Sunday. Will nobody be here? But I'm hoping I will see you all in Chattanooga. God bless you. Go in peace.